Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:02. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and we are in a very steamy studio this morning. Pete Coles and I. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
So we're having a few AC issues over here.
It's working, and then it's not working, and then it's working, and then it's not working.
And honestly, almost, Pete, like from minute to minute, because as I sit here right now, I can kind of feel some cool air. But as I sat here literally 5 minutes ago, I felt like the heat was turned, like somebody had turned the heat on. So I think the system is not sure what season it is and what to do. But
it's hot out though, but it's not. It's like misty out there right now. It's going to rain later in a little bit. But.
I know. You know, it's so funny, Pete. I have to say, I live in West Springfield. When I left my house, it looked like every other day for the last week, like the sun was ready to come up. Mm-hmm. And just about the time I got to Little George's, I'm going, hey, what's going on? It was just total clouds.
Fog.
Yep, fog, mist. Mm-hmm. And it was just, it was sort of the strangest thing, because I just thought, wait a minute, 5 minutes ago at my house, it's not doing that. It wasn't cloudy at all. I mean, it was, you know, as I said, looked like the sun was going to be coming up. And so it's strange doings out there, but it's super muggy this morning. I mean, it's 73 degrees, but it already feels like it's, you know, into the 80s or 90s just because it's so heavy. The air is so heavy out there.
Yeah. So it's muggy today, and this rain will break the muggies.
Are we
I don't think it'll break the heat.
Yeah. But
it'll break the heat a little bit, but it'll break the muggies more than anything else.
So are we definitely getting, I mean, they've been saying maybe for the last 3 days, and I didn't watch the news last night because I went to bed, so I missed the weather, but
we won't get a lot of it.
We
won't get a lot of it. We'll get a little bit of rain this morning, and that's about it.
Okay. Well, you know, at this point, I think we'll take what we can get. And you know, even if it were cloudy, like that wouldn't be bad either, because everybody's lawn is just burning up at this point with you know, the sun. And my daughter pointed out that you know, we're not doing meals at the senior center this week because I have more than half my staff out, you know, using some of their vacation time. And Grace pointed out that this was probably a really nice week not to have to be out there at, you know, between 11 and 12 on the hot macadam, you know, and serving lunches. So it is nice to have a little break. I'm just finding it's nice to have a flow to my day. Like I can get, you know, I can start a project in the morning, and it is. I think people don't realize, because they think, well, you know, you take an hour out of your day to serve lunch from 11 to 12. But the reality is that it takes us the entire morning to get ready to serve lunch between 11 and 12. So my day for the last 107 days or whatever it's been has really not started until about 1 o'clock or about 12:15. in the afternoon, because from the time I get in until we're done serving, it's all about getting the lunch ready. And, you know, because Joanne and George are doing the cooking, but all the other, you know, bagging and prepping and putting the desserts, you know, all of that stuff, that's all my staff.
I think Kenny jokes about it's day 422 of quarantine.
That's, you know what, that's what it feels like. It feels like day 422. But, and, you know, I was listening to the news this morning, and, you know, of course they're having surges in other parts of the country, and now
but you know what, this is like, so to me, and I'm going to cut you off because like every other viral year we have of any type of virus, it runs its course, it burns out. So these states that have all had low numbers up until now, it's going to run its course. Well, it's going to burn out. This is what it does.
I would have said the same thing, and my exception though is that now they're seeing it in the state of Washington, which, if you recall, is where all of this started way back when, with, you know, the nursing home up there. And now they're seeing their resurgence. And we're about 2 months behind the state of Washington. So my fear is that, you know, if we're recycling again, and I don't think we'll know that right away.
I think we got to find out what, Washington's a big place. And we got to find out what parts of because I don't think the whole state went. It's kind of like Berkshire County. You know what I mean? Berkshire County has almost no cases, you know, in comparison to the rest of the state. So, you know, that type of thing. It's now maybe it's getting into the rural areas, but yeah, this is like every other virus I've seen. It goes, it burns out, and now they're saying that there may be 8-10 million cases in the month of March before any testing was done. So a lot more people may be immune to this than we originally thought. That type of thing. So
well, we're gonna hope so, but I'm not banking on that right now. And again, you know, I work with a very vulnerable population that has to be incredibly careful. So we continue to be super careful, and
that's a whole different animal. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the general population.
Yeah. Well, my folks are definitely at risk there. So, be careful, continue to do what you need to do. Use your distancing, wear your masks when you go out. And, again, we're finding that at least for the folks that are coming through our lunch line and people that are, coming to borrow medical equipment and things like that, they're doing everything they need to do. I mean, they're, when they ring our doorbell to say I'm here to pick up, my wheelchair, my walker, they've got their mask on. They're staying their distance from me as we, do the exchange of equipment and so forth. So that's what we need to do.
Yep.
Keep
Do what you
doing
got to do. Yeah.
Do what you got to do. You're doing the right thing.
Yep.
We'll keep hoping for the best. And, Pete, I want to do a public shout out to you. And I sent an email, as you know, to the city councilors the other day. But, I think the lineup on Channel 15 is really impressive. I think the work that we've been able to do together with you, just a ton of support from you in terms of getting some of our fitness programming and our educational programming. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to listen to the interview that Harry Rock did with me on Beating the Blues, the educational program that's been running through the month of June. And I hadn't really listened to the playback. That was really a great program. There was a lot of good information in there. I think that other cities and towns have picked that one up. I think Southwick, Cindy's running that one, and I think Agawam might be running it. But, thank you so much for doing that. And I think that it's...
I honestly have had a ton of help from Ken Stomsky.
Yes, yeah.
Luckily and unluckily,
Yes.
Kenny lost his job.
Yeah.
And he's become my number one go-to guy. I mean,
Yes.
Friday, we have an event at City Hall that needs to be covered.
Okay.
I'm taping Art Speak with Mark Auerbach.
Yep.
And we're trying to engineer the studio to transmitter link from here to WSKB, so we have a permanent hardware link.
Okay.
So we have 3 things going on at once, and I'm like, Kenny, I need your help.
Yeah, and you know what,
I
Pete?
need you to cover City Hall.
Yes, and thank you for pointing that out, because the next time I do a shout out, I have to include Kenny and of course Jay Pagluca too, who's been helpful with all of the entertainment and so forth. But
the music, you've done a great
absolutely.
job with that. Yeah.
I mean, the 3 of you have been just invaluable, and I think you said right from the get-go, Pete, that more than ever, our local cable channel is going to be really important during this pandemic. And because I remember at the very beginning, yes, you did, because I remember in March, when we were all kind of going,
I think I sent an email around to everybody.
Yeah, it's like, do we keep going with programming? Do we need to pull back? And you really were very, firm in saying this is exactly when we need this kind of programming. This is when, people will have the opportunity. And I think what's really, I'm always looking again for the silver linings, as I like to say, but I think the silver lining here is that a lot of people who maybe weren't using their local cable channel in Westfield are very aware of it now. People are tuning in, not just to the specific things that they're looking for, but I think they're just flipping it on to see what's going on, or what information can I get now.
And I'd love to have a regular schedule right now, but
it's hard to. Yeah, it's impossible. I know.
I can't because. There's boards and commissions that meet during the day.
Correct.
And sometimes I get 48 hours notice because that's all the posting time you have to have for something like that. So all of a sudden these stuff has started popping up and I'm like, where'd that come from? That wasn't on the schedule yesterday.
Yeah.
That wasn't on the calendar yesterday. So all these boards and commissions and everything else, it's just like I have to accommodate them right now. So it's like,
right. It should settle down over the summer. There are several of the boards and commissions that don't meet in July and August, but right now we're at that end of the fiscal year. Everybody's trying to get all of their, their budgets passed, and they're, if they know they're not going to be meeting for 2 months, so it's like, you're quickly trying to get everything in order. And it's been, a bit of a crazy time right now. So nothing is, sort of the traditional way we've always done it.
And like conservation has a backlog of stuff.
Yes.
And the way conservation works, and I know people were frustrated last night at the meeting.
Okay.
And I get it, but if they can't determine what you're trying to do in a project by pictures, these guys have been there. A lot of the conservation commission has been there for a long time.
Okay. And
there's a pretty good brain trust there. So they have to go out and do a site visit, and it's 2 weeks, and I know it's frustrating. And I know there's one applicant in particular that I messaged afterward and said, this is an unusual occurrence. They don't deny these. They generally don't deny these, but they have to get an eyeball on it, and they might be able to save you money on something they suggest that you didn't think of.
Mm-hmm.
So and I was trying to talk her off the ledge.
Well, and I totally get it, Pete. Actually, I had a situation yesterday. I had a friend of someone who was recently admitted to a skilled nursing facility who called me, and it was the same thing. Very upset. Is this the usual? She's not getting good care, and blah 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 blah. And I said, okay, please remember that I said she is not being targeted. I mean, this 90-plus-year-old lady is not being targeted for, neglect or anything like that. But I said, you've got skilled nursing facilities now that typically, I mean, they're kind of usually short-staffed anyway, but magnify that, because if you've had any kind of cases in any of the SNFs, which we have in Westfield, and now you have staff that have to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Use an acronym, SNF.
Skilled nursing facility.
Okay.
Sorry, Pete.
We remember about acronyms.
Absolutely.
I do it to the school department all the time.
No, and I'm usually the one doing it to my guests. But yep, nursing homes are skilled nursing facilities. But if you have staff that have to quarantine for 2 weeks, I mean, even if they're not showing symptoms, but they've been exposed, and they certainly don't want to be carrying that into a nursing home.
Sure.
Well, you're short-staffed because the pool there's not a pool of workers. Those first responders and those people that are working in our hospitals and skilled nursing facilities, if they're quarantined, you're out of.
You're down a man,
you're down,
a woman.
Exactly, you're down, and I know what that's like. I mean, I was down 4 staff people, during the month of April.
Well, and that's what happened at the Soldiers Home. They were way short to begin with.
Yeah.
And then it got worse because the people started dropping like flies, staff members, and all of a sudden you got a pandemic and you got an epidemic in the building, and you got nobody to work.
Right. So
they literally,
so it's the same thing you were saying with the conservation. It's not like this person is being targeted or your project is being targeted. It's that this is the situation we're in right now. Nobody likes it. It's not a great situation, and it doesn't mean you should not do anything. But the other thing that I pointed out to this person was, and honestly, I didn't really think about it till I said it out loud. Skilled nursing facilities and nursing homes also rely on family members who come in, and how many family members go in every day to visit a spouse or a parent and help with feeding them lunch or feeding them dinner. Well, now you've eliminated visitation. So all of those extra hands that you kind of tend to count on those. I did a lot of social work in nursing homes in my heyday, and we knew the families that came in every day or every other day or 3 times a week, and they would be feeding. They would be feeding dad. So it's like, okay, we don't have to worry about Mr. So and so today because his daughter's here. Well, the families haven't been allowed into these facilities in, over 100 days. And so now, on top of the fact that you're probably short-staffed, you also don't have family coming in to help. Not because they don't want to, but
because they're not. Now
you're really short. Yeah, you're really short. So it's, it is a problem. And I think, Pete, sometimes just as you did with this person yesterday, kind of talking them off the ledge, sometimes just explaining that and pointing things out. Because when I did that with this other woman who called me yesterday, it was sort of the same thing, and she was a retired social worker, but she worked with kids, and she said, I didn't really think about that.
Yep.
I said, yeah, that's the reality of what the staff members that are there, that's what they're dealing with right now. So they don't want somebody to have to wait, 45 minutes before you can take them to the bathroom. But the fact is that may be what has to happen because they're not sitting around drinking coffee. They're running around the facility trying to get everybody else fed and, toileted and med passes and all that other good stuff. So it's just a challenging time, and we just have to be aware and be flexible. All right, it is 6:16. Let's take our first break. We'll play this song, and then I'll explain why we're playing this song. We're going to listen to The Rose by Bette Midler. You're listening to WCPC Cable Channel 15 and WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. We'll be back.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking that never takes the chance. It's the one who won't be taken, who cannot seem to give, and the soul afraid of dying that never learns to live. When the night has been too lonely and the road has been too long, and you think that love is only for the lucky and the strong, just remember in the winter, far beneath the bitter snows, lies the seed that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
Join us the third Wednesday of every month with Selectman Joe Didi and his take on everything Southwick.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:21. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So we played that song by Bette Midler because June is National Rose Month. So National Rose Month recognizes that June has long been considered an ideal month for roses. Not only are they in season, but they are a popular choice for weddings, which is another event in season this month. Mm-hmm. Roses come in more than 150 species across the northern hemisphere and even more around the globe. Because their beauty and fragrance speak to lovers, the rose has long been the symbol of poets and artists. Both wild and domesticated roses grow in the United States. 5 states even make the rose their state flower. While New York's official rose is one of any color or combination, North Dakota and Iowa named the prairie rose as their state flower. Georgia's state flower is the Cherokee rose, and the Oklahoma rose is the state flower of its namesake. First Lady Ellen Wilson started the White House Rose Garden in 1913. Before becoming a garden, part of the property where the Rose Garden grows was allocated to the White House stables, horses, and coaches. But don't let the name fool you. There are more than just roses in the White House Rose Garden. The history of National Rose Month? Well, National Rose Month was first observed in 1959 when efforts were made to pass a bill to designate the rose as the national flower. Arlene Hennessy of Bayonne, New Jersey, was crowned Rose Queen in honor of the month that year. However, the rose wasn't made the national flower until 1986 when President Ronald Reagan made it official. So happy National Rose Month. And Pete, I have a senior who used to be quite a regular at the senior center, and he grew roses, and he would they have these shows where you get awards and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
Who knew? He used to regale me with these stories, and I had never been to, and I still have not seen his yard. But some of the other seniors who know exactly where he lives said, you have to go see it. It's just an amazing, it's just an amazing thing. He and his wife used to do it. His wife passed away a few years ago. But yeah, and he said they would do all of these, and he still does go to the show. Well, of course, not this year during the pandemic, but, go to the shows and show his roses and so forth, all kinds of species and colors. And that's really when I found out, I just assumed they came in a few colors.
Do you know who does that a lot?
Who does it?
Stanley Park.
Yes.
Does a lot of, they do a lot of breeding and cross breeding and stuff like that and new varieties. A lot of colleges seek out Stanley Park for their rose garden to try new
like species and things like that. Yeah.
New genetic.
And it's funny,
models and
Pete, that
stuff.
you brought up Stanley Park because, of course, I thought of Stanley Park right away when I was doing this. And I think that I think the Rose Garden is open at this point, right? I think at Stanley. I know
I believe they were part of phase 2.
Okay. All right. So being able to kind of stroll through the Rose Garden should
right.
Be, yeah.
I mean, obviously check with the park and look on their website and call them.
Yep.
But I believe they were phase 2.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep.
So happy National Rose Month. So we have a few famous birthdays, and I want to spend a little time on the first birthday.
Okay.
This is it's June 24th, and it is the birthday of the late Norman Cousins, who is a journalist, or was a journalist, author, and professor. He was born June 24th, 1912, in Union City, New Jersey. He died in 1990 at the age of 78. Norman Cousins attended Theodore Roosevelt High School in the Bronx and edited the school paper, which was called The Square Deal. He received a bachelor's degree from Teachers College, Columbia University, and he joined the staff of the New York Evening Post in 1934, and a year later was hired by Current History, that was the name of the magazine, as a book critic. In 1940, Norman Cousins joined the staff of the Saturday Review. He was named editor-in-chief in 1942, a position he held for 30 years until 1972. Under his direction, circulation of the Saturday Review increased from 20,000 to 650,000.
There you go.
Yeah. But he was a really interesting man. Cousins was a lifetime believer in the power of hope and the realism of optimism. One of his well-known lines went like this: "Life is an adventure in forgiveness," and that line has survived him. But Cousins had no patience for those who consciously bent the truth, whether for personal expediency or in the political sphere. Norman Cousins joined the University of California, Los Angeles faculty in 1978 and became an adjunct professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Biobehavioral Sciences. He taught ethics and medical literature. His research interest was the connection between attitude and health. Norman Cousins did research on the biochemistry of human emotions, which he long believed were the key to human beings' success in fighting illness. It was a belief he maintained even as he battled, in 1964, a sudden onset case of a crippling connective tissue disease. Told that he had one chance in 500 of recovery, Norman Cousins developed his own recovery program. He took massive intravenous doses of vitamin C and had self-induced bouts of laughter brought on by films of the television show Candid Camera and by various comic films. This is a quote. I made the joyous discovery that 10 minutes of genuine belly laughter had an anesthetic effect that would give me at least 2 hours of pain-free sleep, he reported. When the pain-killing effect of the laughter wore off, we would switch on the motion picture projector again, and not infrequently, it would lead to another pain-free interval. His struggle with that illness and his discovery of what's called laugh therapy or laughter therapy is detailed in his 1979 book, Anatomy of an Illness as Perceived by the Patient. And I have to tell you, I read Anatomy of an Illness, and there's a film that Ed Asner starred in on Anatomy of an Illness, and it's the story of Norman Cousins' life, but particularly with his bout with this really crippling degenerative disease. And he would watch, like Abbott and Costello movies, and just movies that would just really get him belly laughing. And it kind of started, now there's a whole research field out there on the therapeutic value of laughter and laughter therapy. And there are actually people who specialize in that and have done programs on it and do, seminars on it and so forth. So there's a lot to that whole field of laughter and humor as the therapeutic value of that, and sort of that body-mind connection.
Yeah.
But he was one of the first to really talk about that. And if you have an opportunity, I meant to bring the book in to just kind of show you what the cover looks like. I have the DVD as well. So if anybody is interested in that, the title of the book is Anatomy of an Illness as Perceived by the Patient. I think I had to read it for one of my classes in grad school. I majored in rehab counseling. We did a lot with, especially alternative therapies, but it was a great book. So happy birthday to the late Norman Cousins. All right, folks, it is 6:29. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So I wanted to do a song in honor of Norman Cousins' birthday. And since a few weeks ago I did I Love to Laugh, which would have been the perfect song. But I found another one. It's called Make 'Em Laugh, and it's sung by Donald O'Connor, but it's taken from the movie Singin' in the Rain. And it's another one of those, kind of laughter songs. So let's listen.
Come on now, snap out of it. You can't let a little thing like this get you down. Why, you're Donald Lockwood, aren't you? And Donald Lockwood's an actor, isn't he? Well, what's the first thing an actor learns? The show must go on. Come rain, come shine, come snow, come sleet, the show must go on. So Reedy, Pagliacci, Reedy.
Reedy, huh?
Yeah. Dom, the world is so full of a number of things. I'm sure we should all be as happy as. But are we? No. Definitely no. Positively no. Decidedly no. Short people have long faces. And long people have short faces. Big people have little humor, and little people have no humor at all.
And in the words of that immortal bard, Samuel J. Snodgrass, as he was about to be led to the guillotine, make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh? My dad said, be an actor, my son, but be a comical one. They'll be standing in lines for those old honky-tonk monkey shines. Or you could study Shakespeare and be quite elite, and you could charm the critics and have nothing to eat. Just slip on a banana peel, the world's at your feet. Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh? My grandpa said go out and tell 'em a joke, but give it plenty of hope. Make 'em roar, make 'em scream. Take a fall, but a wall, split a seam. You start off by pretending you're a dancer with grace. You wiggle till they're giggling all over the place. And then you get a great big custard pie in the face. Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Make 'em laugh. Don't you all the... What? My dad. They'll be standing in lines for those old honky-tonk monkey shows.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:34. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and Pete Coles is in this steamy, hot studio with me this morning. How
Crossing
you doing?
my fingers, the air conditioner might be working.
Well, I was going to say, it's on right now. Like, I can feel it, and it's comfortable. I hate to say that, like, knock on wood.
I'm crossing my fingers.
I know. You're doing okay in there?
Well, I closed the window because it feels like it's cooling off.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think if you shut the window, is it still kind of cloudy and misty out there?
Sure.
Outside,
I can show you.
Yes. Oh, do show me, Pete. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
There you go. Okay, that's what it's looking like this morning.
It's just.
Yeah, it's very heavy. It's just very heavy out there. You know, it's hard for people with breathing problems. So do you just want to?
Yeah, well, that's how I felt yesterday in here.
Yeah.
I don't have breathing problems per se, but I felt just heavy.
Yeah, that's the way
I
it
was
is.
like, I'm gonna get out of here and work from home.
So, Pete, like, speaking of working from home and stuff, so where are we? I mean, you have been doing so many meetings because it's budget time, it's end of the season. So and I know I was reading in the Westfield News, which I think has done a great job of, sort of advertising and promoting what's on Channel 15 when, and they said, I guess, good, yeah, which is perfect. And I guess Sunday there were a lot of the
I aired every single budget hearing. Right.
Perfect.
From right through. So normally at 12:30 on Sundays, we are the City Council replay of the week.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, I got a whole week's worth of stuff.
Yes.
Like every day they met last week.
Yes.
So I put them all together back to back, and it was 8 hours and 14 minutes of budget hearings.
For those who just wanted to hear what was going on. So now, where do things stand this week? Where are we this week? Who's meeting where, and when?
We had the meeting for the public budget hearing.
Right, the open,
a few people showed up.
And did people, when you say
Just a
showed
handful.
up, just so people know?
Via Zoom.
Zoom,
it was all
so
published via Zoom.
Yep.
They had a couple of emails, and they had a couple of people show up, and a couple of people spoke, and that was it. So,
okay.
But that's usually what happens.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
I got cultural council today at 6, historical commission at 7, and Friday's going to be busy, but no meetings. But next week, on Monday, city council special meeting, I believe on the 29th. Oh, there should be another meeting on Thursday. 5 o'clock, I believe, is going to be a council, one last budget hearing for stuff that they missed, smaller budgets, things like that.
And so the meeting where the city council will actually vote on the budget is next Monday. Is that correct?
I believe so.
29th?
City council special meeting on the 29th. Yep.
Okay.
But obviously, check citywestfield.org.
Yes.
Because my schedule doesn't always sync up with theirs. Yep. So, I check theirs and I check mine. And make sure all the meetings are created properly and all that stuff, because we have to facilitate all that. So
yeah, it is. It's all tricky. And Pete, I did put a disclaimer in my newsletter, which I've done now.
You have to.
Basically just saying, listen, these are the times, like, for our fitness classes and so forth. Except that we do have, you do have other responsibilities with meetings, and if that's the case, things either will get bumped off or they'll just get they'll get moved an hour or whatever. So
right, and we're working out the final logistics for next Friday, July 3rd.
Okay.
The plan is to have our own kind of Independence Day celebration.
Great. So what's the plan?
As
what are
part
we
of
doing?
Studio 120.
Cool.
So I have to get final approval on one last thing. But we want to use the stage over at Tigers Pride to have Corey and the Knightsmen set up.
Fun.
And do like a 6 to 7:30-ish set for them.
Okay.
Maybe have a Studio 120 in between. And then in this studio, have Trailer Trash set up with their audio guy, and have Jay do the Corey and the Knightsmen, and kind of do a traditional music for a 4th of July type of thing show.
Yep.
And then I don't think Westfield was able to pull together any fireworks. I talked to Pete Miller about maybe doing a drive-in type thing, but I don't think that happened. So the plan is right now is to pull out the 350 fireworks from last year.
That's what I was going to say. Why don't you show the ones from last year? They
and
were
re-air
great.
that on Channel
Yes.
15, and we probably simulcast that on 89.5 as well. So people around town, your backyards, if you're doing cookouts or whatever, you
Yeah.
can listen to the music starting at 6 o'clock.
Perfect.
And right up through till like 9:30 or so when we run the fireworks. So
That's perfect.
You know, we don't want a big day, and all the bands are volunteering their time.
Nice.
You know, because frankly, I don't have any money in my budget to pay them.
Yep.
But you know what? They just want to play for their fans, and this will go a lot further than Westfield because Trailer Trash has a big following, so their fans are going to be watching on their Facebook page, I believe, and I can do the same thing for the Knightsmen. So I think it'll be a lot of fun for everybody. So
I think it's great. That's great. That's called
we're
creativity.
trying.
And
I'm trying. And it's
you
a
know
lot
what?
of work.
It is. It's I mean, and I don't know if people know how much work it is. It is a lot of work.
Jay and I were doing planning yesterday, looking at the space in Tigers Pride, what we got to move and make work, and you can't utilize the whole stage because there's storage there for the culinary department, and how we're going to make this work. So I think we can pull it off. It's just going to be a little bit of work. That's all. And it's next week. So
yeah, right, exactly.
I didn't want to do nothing. I didn't want to do nothing for. And I wanted to have Corey and the Knightsmen for sure play.
Mm-hmm.
And
that is a Westfield tradition.
Right. And I convinced them the earlier set would be better because they'd be out of here earlier.
Yeah.
And originally they were like, well, we usually play the headliner. And I'm like, I understand that.
Yes. Yeah.
But their fan base would rather probably have it earlier on earlier.
Yeah. Because you know what, their stuff is really, and every generation. Yeah, in every generation. So do it before the kids go to bed.
And then Trailer Trash is the modern country party band. So you got a little bit of both.
Perfect.
You got traditional rock and roll and the country party band. So
That's
we'll have a little bit of both. So
that's going to be great. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Cross my fingers.
Yeah, we'll do some. We'll have to do some advertising for that so everybody knows about it. But that's awesome. That's super. So that's next Friday.
And anybody that wants to help, message me on Facebook. You can find me. It's real simple.
Okay.
And I'll try to get some. I need some crew for that. So I'm soliciting people right now. But
okay. All right.
I mean, I know it's a holiday.
Did they need to have any special talent, or can they just?
I could probably train you to run a camera in about 20 minutes.
Okay.
That's all I need is camera operators, and then help people to help me kind of move stuff around. So.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Because there's going to be a lot of equipment moving back and forth up and down the hallways. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And luckily, somebody was like, "Oh, use the stage up in the auditorium." I'm like, "No, I'm not hauling gear all the way across this building and hauling gear. Yes, we could do that." But hauling gear back and forth would be a nightmare.
Yeah, I don't know if people realize the gear piece of it, because I know when we were at the Boys and Girls Club, God, that seems like a long time ago, Pete. Whenever
that wasn't bad though.
Right.
That setup wasn't bad.
No. But I'm just saying, even just for that, it
fills my SUV.
Yeah, but every square inch of your SUV.
Yes.
I kept saying, how are you going to get this?
Yeah, you saw how I packed it up.
Fit. Yep, it's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Right, and I'd rather be able to roll it down to the next room than that type of thing. So.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well that sounds great. So
cross your fingers, it all
some
comes
meetings
together.
this week, some meetings next week. The 4th of July celebration, and then is there maybe a little?
I'm taking a break.
Hiatus. I think.
I mean, I'll still have meetings and stuff, but I bought equipment in such a way that I could also do some meetings from home.
Yeah, which is perfect.
So it's helpful when the air conditioning's not working, or when I've worked all morning here and I'm still working, but I'd rather be home.
Sure. Yeah.
And try to get things done like laundry and dishes and
well,
stuff
I was going to say,
that.
And I think
I haven't had time to do it.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people have found when they're working from home and they're, with all the pandemic stuff, it's like, hey, it's kind of nice to be able to, I can do my calls, but then I can throw a little laundry in the washer, throw it in the dryer, turn on my crock pot or, whatever you're going to do. So, all right. So before we take our next break, I have to talk a little bit about why I'm going to be playing this next song. So today is June 24th, but Saturday is June 27th, and that happens to be my wedding anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
So thank you. So Gary and I will be married on Saturday, 39 years. We got married in 1981. It is also the wedding anniversary of our next door neighbors, Norm and Sandy Beals. Who,
no kidding.
Yes. This is really interesting, Pete. So turns out when, and we didn't know Norm and Sandy until they, bought the house next door. We both kind of moved in, I think, within a month of each other onto our street. So Norm and Sandy, Norm is 87. I think they've been married for over 60 years. We went to one of their big anniversary parties, and I said to Gary, now, how long ago was that, and which one was it? And we can't remember, but they've been married a really long time. So they're our anniversary twins. And then our next door neighbor on the street that we used to live on, who was like my second daughter, and she was Grace's first babysitter and ever, Steph Boudry, who is now Steph Duggan. She and her husband Sean also got married on June 27th, and we were at their wedding.
That's
they
funny.
played an anniversary song for us. So I've got lots of anniversary twins. And so anyway, Gary and I were talking about it last week, and this song came on, this thing that I'm going to play, which is by Orleans. It's called Still the One.
It's a good song.
It's a great song. And I said, it came on the radio a couple days ago, and I said to Gary, hey, here's our song. Here's our anniversary song. And, you know, when you listen to the lyrics, it really is hysterical, because it's just kind of one of those, when you've been married for 39 years, and I know a lot of my listeners have been married longer than that, you know, it's just like, it's just like an old shoe, and you just deal with the person with all the, I like to call them quirks, and Gary and I were talking about that the other day, and I said,
yeah, we all have quirks. I told my girlfriend,
we have our quirks.
By this age, I am who I am.
And you know what?
Either we fit or we don't, and that's okay.
Exactly, because you're not going to change now. I mean, it's just it's who you are, and you accept the person for their quirks. So, I know Gary's, and he certainly knows mine. I mean, I tend to be a perfectionist. I'm obsessive compulsive. We know all those things about me, which make me a great employee.
Yep.
But
sure.
it can be trying when you're married to me. Trust me. But Gary's no angel either. He's got his things too. So happy 39th anniversary, honey, if you're listening this morning. And this song is for you at 6:45. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. This song is by Orleans, and it's called Still the One.
After all Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:50. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and Pete Coles is in the studio with me. And now I feel like it's getting warmer again, Pete. The air conditioning can't kind of make up its mind. Just to let our listeners know that second hour, we will be joined by Joe Rouse, Director of Public Health. So he'll be giving us an update on all things COVID-19 in Westfield, as well as some other topics that are timely at this during this summer season. But before we get there, that'll be about a half hour from now, 25 minutes from now. Let's talk about the fact that June is not only National Rose Month, it is also National Iced Tea Month.
Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. As the temperature heats up in June, it's a perfect time to celebrate National Iced Tea Month. Brewing the ideal pitcher of iced tea is a matter of taste. Depending on your taste, you may prefer sun tea, sweet tea, or unsweetened tea. Perhaps your palate leans more toward a fruitier tea or a stronger type of tea. As long as it's iced, June is the month your tea is celebrated. So here's the story of how iced tea was kind of invented. It was made as early as the 1870s, but an English merchant by the name of Richard Belchenden brought the beverage to popularity. During the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, Missouri, temperatures began to soar. Belchenden had crossed the Atlantic to sell black tea steeped hot and served to the American public. So remember, he came over from England just for the World's Fair to sell hot tea. Under the conditions, fairgoers were interested in cooler beverages, so Belchenden needed to switch strategies or he would have zero sales. By brewing a stronger tea and pouring it over ice, the merchant created a new product to sell. And I actually read that in several different places, so I think that story is true. That's not it's not just a rumor.
Yep.
It may surprise contemporary tea drinkers to learn that most of today's commercial iced tea mixes and tea bags contain mostly mechanically harvested black teas from Argentina. More than 40% of the tea imported into the United States each year originates in that South American country's long, flat fields of tea bushes. Although some teas are manufactured specifically to be served as iced tea, almost any tea can really be enjoyed cold as well as hot. You can even save your breakfast tea and serve it over ice for lunch. Whether it's black, green, oolong, or white, drinking iced tea is cooler than ever. So, happy National Iced Tea Month. So we also have a few more famous birthdays. It is the birthday of the late Jack Dempsey, who was a boxer born in June 24th, 1895 in Manassas, Colorado. He died at the age of 87 in 1983. Jack Dempsey grew up in Colorado and Utah, working as a farmer, miner, and cowboy. Dempsey's older brother, Bernie, earned extra money as a prize fighter in the saloons of hardscrabble Rocky Mountain towns. And it was Bernie who taught young Jack how to fight, instructing him to chew pine tar gum to strengthen his jaw and soak his face in brine to toughen his skin.
Smart.
Right? By the age of 17, Jack Dempsey had developed into a skilled young boxer and decided he could make more money fighting than working. On Independence Day in 1919, Dempsey got his first big opportunity, a fight against world heavyweight champion Jess Willard. Nicknamed the Great White Hope, Willard stood a menacing 6 feet 6 inches tall and weighed in at 245 pounds. No one in the boxing world thought the 6'1", 187-pound Dempsey stood a chance. Despite his enormous disadvantage in size, Dempsey dominated Willard with his superior quickness and ruthless tactics, knocking the bigger man out in the third round to earn the title of World Heavyweight Champion. Jack Dempsey successfully defended his heavyweight title 5 times over the next 6 years in what is considered one of the greatest runs in boxing history. Despite his successes in the ring during this period, however, Dempsey was not particularly popular with the public. He had not served in the military when the United States entered World War I in 1917, leading some to view him as a slacker and a draft dodger. Strangely, Dempsey finally achieved widespread popularity when he lost his championship title. On September 23, 1926, he was defeated by challenger Gene Tunney before a record crowd of 120,000 fans in Philadelphia. When the bruised and battered Dempsey returned to his hotel that night, his wife, shocked at his gruesome appearance, asked him what had happened. And he said to her, "Honey, I forgot to duck." The hilarious and self-effacing anecdote made Dempsey something of a folk legend for the rest of his life. So happy birthday to the late boxer Jack Dempsey. It is also the birthday of musician and drummer Mick Fleetwood. So born June 24th, 1947 in Redruth, United Kingdom, he is 73 years old today. Michael John Kells Fleetwood is a British musician and actor, best known as the drummer, co-founder, and de facto leader of the rock band Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood, whose surname was merged with that of the group's bassist John McVie to form the name of the band, Fleetwood Mac, was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998. Born in the United Kingdom, Fleetwood lived in Egypt and Norway for most of his childhood years as his father traveled with the Royal Air Force. Choosing to follow his musical interests, Fleetwood traveled to London at the age of 15, eventually combining with Peter Green, Jeremy Spencer, and Bob Brunning at Green's behest to become the first incarnation of Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood would remain the only member to stay with the band through its ever-changing lineup. After several album releases and lineup changes, the group moved to the United States in 1974 in an attempt to boost the band's success. Here, Fleetwood invited Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks to join. Buckingham and Nicks contributed to much of Fleetwood Mac's later commercial success.
Absolutely.
Including the celebrated album Rumors, while Fleetwood's own determination to keep the band together was essential to the band's longevity. The Rumors saga is one of rock's most famous soap operas, but here's a refresher course on the dramatic persona. Stevie Nicks had just split with her longtime lover and musical partner, Lindsey Buckingham. Now, Stevie Nicks is a female, Lindsey Buckingham's a male, just in case you don't have that straight. Yep. While Christine was in the midst of divorcing her husband, bassist John McVie, also members of the group. Meanwhile, Mick Fleetwood's extra band Marriage was on the rocks, leading to an affair with Nicks before the year was out.
Yep.
This inner turmoil surfaced in brutally honest lyrics, transforming the album into a tantalizing he said, she said romantic confessional. The musicians' personal lives permanently fused within the grooves, and all who listen to Rumors become a voyeur to the painful, glamorous mess.
They blew the doors off the whole thing with that album.
Oh, my goodness. It was amazing. That was an amazing
It's one of the best rock albums of all time.
Oh, I absolutely. I'm right there with you, Pete. Hits on the album include Secondhand News, Dreams, Go Your Own Way, and The Chain. Mick Fleetwood has also enjoyed a solo career, published written books, and flirted briefly with acting, as well as opened blues-themed restaurants in both Alexandria, Virginia, as well as Hawaii. So happy birthday to Mick Fleetwood. We'll listen to one of the Fleetwood Mac tunes later on. And finally, it is the birthday of actress Sherry Stringfield. She was born June 24th, 1967 in Colorado Springs. She's 53 years old today. Sherry Stringfield got her first role on the CBS daytime soap opera The Guiding Light. After 3 years, she left the show to spend a year traveling in Europe, but returned to television on the ABC drama NYPD Blue. She played Manhattan Assistant District Attorney Laura Kelly, the ex-wife of Officer John Kelly, who was played by David Caruso, during the first season of the series. That was 1993 to 1994. Stringfield then became one of the original cast members of NBC's medical drama ER. Her personal success mirrored the show's success. She was nominated for an Emmy Award for lead actress during each of her first 3 seasons of the show. Stringfield was contractually tied to appear in 5 seasons of ER. However, a desire for a, quote, normal life and to escape ER's grueling filming schedule prompted her to leave the drama early in its 3rd season. Sherry Stringfield's much publicized departure reportedly sent a small shockwave through Hollywood, and her exit episode in November of 1996 attracted 37 million viewers, the biggest night of the season for the NBC network. Following the birth of her daughter, she approached the producers of ER and then rejoined the cast in 2001, the show's 8th season. She remained in the role for 4 additional seasons. 26.7 million people watched Stringfield's return, placing the show at first place in the ratings. In 2009, Sherry Stringfield returned to ER for the series finale, which was entitled "And in the End." And I think on that finale, I think they ended up with every single original cast member making some kind of a cameo appearance to send them all out, And so anyway, happy birthday to Sherry Stringfield. It is 7:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll take our top of the hour break.
By the way, people always think those are call letters. It's just Westfield Community.
It's just Westfield Community
Programming Channel.
Right, Community Programming Channel.
I know.
But we like
call letters are issued if you broadcast over the air.
I know, but we think it's pretty cool.
I know. I just like
just setting the story straight.
Yeah, keeping it real, as they say.
Keeping it real. Okay, so we are going to take our top of the hour break. Then we'll do some announcements, and Joe Rouse will be with us at 7.
Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every 4th Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:05. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and Pete Coles and I are in this steamy studio.
Open the window back up again.
I know, because now it's getting warm again.
Yes. Harry's guest today is Andrea Allard. We're going to catch up on what the Y is doing and how they're getting ready to open completely.
Perfect.
And things like that. So we'll get an update on the YMCA today.
Perfect. So Harry will be in the studio.
Yes.
And is Andrea zooming in or calling in?
Yes.
Or, yep.
Zooming
perfect.
in, I believe. Yep.
Okay, great. Good. I'm glad. Thank you for letting us know that. And speaking of the YMCA, so one of the instructors for the YMCA is also our chair yoga instructor. That would be Terry Summers. And so I'm happy to announce that Terry she came in early in the game and did a chair yoga session, which Pete has been broadcasting on Channel 15. And by the way, a lot of people are at home doing chair yoga with Terry, so that's great. And one of the seniors had said earlier this month, she said, "Oh, well, it's the same program that she did last month," which it is, but she has now come in and done a new program, taping a new session, which will be aired in July. So I'm announcing this because the new Voice of Experience newsletter, the July edition, will hit the streets this Saturday. So make sure that you get a copy. We will obviously be giving out copies as people come through the lunch line. We'll be giving them out at the Brown Bag program. But fitness-wise, we have a new program by Terry, We have the mail call session that Michelle Urbanski taped early in June. So that's being aired now. That will continue to be aired. And by the way, I have several men that are doing that, have called to report that it is a fabulous program. They are using all the props that they have at home, and they said it's giving them a great workout. So that one's good. Moving and Grooving with Dr. G and Grace is going well. I think Gary would like to maybe do a third one for the month of August. So we'll kind of put that one, to be done sometime during the month of July, but that will be aired again in July. And then in July, we are adding Zumba Gold with Becca Perrone. Becca usually does a Zumba class at the Senior Center. So, Pete, when I mapped it all out and I sent you the schedule, I realized that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 10:30, there's some kind of an exercise fitness program, and at 2 o'clock on those days, there's some kind of a fitness program on Channel 15, or you can live stream it on your computer. We have people that are doing that as well, kind of taking their laptop into their family room and doing it from in there. So I think that that's fabulous. We're also going to have a different educational program. Last month we did the one with Rock Palmer on legal issues. In June we did the one that Harry and I did on beating the blues, dealing with sadness and depression. And next month Jen Jafune is doing one on nutrition.
With Harry, our de facto host.
You know what? And Harry's doing just a marvelous job with that. And I think he's enjoying it. So we have set this up as a monthly series. So Mary Lou and I've talked about the topic that we would like to bring in for August. So we'll be working on that during the month of July to get that taped with Pete. So we're pretty excited about, about the offerings.
Yeah. And those are shows I can do without a lot of crew, meaning just me.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Especially the educational ones. Cause it's kind of like
even
this,
the dance classes, once I get the shot set,
Yep.
the exercise stuff. Once I get the shot set, you really need to have wide shots, because you need to see the moves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of me bouncing back and forth between cameras. That's pretty much it. So
yeah, and then Mary Lou and I
don't want to be super boring with it.
We have one more that we're working on for August, but I'm not going to tell you what that is. That's a special one, but it'll be similar, Pete, where won't be a lot of work involved on your part, but I think the seniors will have some fun with that as well. So tune into all of those things. All of those are in the newsletter. The schedule's in the newsletter for you. And again, the July newsletter is coming out this Saturday. It will be as an insert into the Westfield News. So it's always an insert into the Westfield News on the last Saturday of the month. And then it'll be online. It'll be on the city website beginning on Monday morning. And, of course, available at the Senior Center. And we have, I don't have my seniors delivering the newsletters these days because of the pandemic, but I do have Sandra Fisher, one of my staff members, drives around on Monday. So we get them to, out to the pharmacies, all the normal places. We're trying to get them to the places that are open, where people, can shop. Some of the doctors' offices, although they're still doing a lot of telemedicine, but at least out to the pharmacies and some of those places. So,
sure.
So make sure you get your copy. The other big push that we're making for the month of July is the census, the 2020 census. This is really important. I can't stress how important this is, especially for everybody, but especially for our seniors, because a lot of our programs, Medicare, the SNAP program, the nutritional, the food stamp program, the money that we get for Council on Aging and Senior Center programs and services through the state, that's all based on population and statistics. How many older adults do you have living in the city? Well, they utilize, it's all based on the utilization of the national census, which means that, for instance, I'll give you the example. So our formula grant, the state formula grant, is done on a per elder basis. So every year, the state gives each Council on Aging grant money, and it's based on your population of seniors from the last national census. So in 2010, we had almost exactly 8,000 seniors, that is people 60 and older, living in the city of Westfield. So if you do a per elder grant, it's so much money per 8,000. So it's times 8,000. So let's say a couple years ago the figure was $10 an elder. We have 8,000, so that's $80,000. Okay, right off that we would get from the state.
Right.
If it's this past year, it was $12 per elder. So multiply that times 8,000. That's our grant money. So obviously, the more seniors that you have, the more money that you get, and that goes true for a lot of those different kinds of programs and community programs. But the figures only changed once every 10 years. Now I can tell you from our local a census that Karen Fanion's, the clerk's office does every year, that we have more than 8,000 seniors. We only get reimbursed for 8,000 because that was the 2010 census.
Sure.
So when we do the 2020 census this year, that number will change if everybody fills out their census form. So if you don't fill out the census form, you're not counted.
Big for schools and things like that.
It's big for schools. Yeah. It's political. It's your representation in government. So I mean, it's a whole host of things. So the importance of
it's not hard. I did it online in 5 minutes.
Correct. That's about how long it takes now for some of our seniors who don't have computers or aren't computer savvy or whatever. We will help you to do it. We can actually, Karen Noblet will do it online for you. So you'll be on the telephone, she'll be online, and she's going to start asking you the questions that they're asking you. She's going to be typing them in, and all you're going to do is talk to her and tell her what the information is. How many people are living in your house, and whatever they ask. Again, as Pete said, it takes about 5 minutes. And we are happy to help do it. I mean, you can also fill it out paper and pen. Some people have done that and mail it back. What we really are trying to avoid is having the census takers have to knock on your door, especially in the pandemic. And I think with, there's just a fear of, opening a door for somebody you don't know. And so we're trying to avoid all of that. So let's either get it filled out online or get it filled out paper and pen. And again, we are happy to help you. So if you need some help with that, call us at the Senior Center at 562-6435. I'm putting that in the July newsletter. So if you've already done it, perfect. A lot of us have already done it and, gotten that out of the way because the census forms went out, a few months ago, but right around the time that the pandemic broke. So I know for some people it just got put to the bottom of a pile of their mail and hasn't been looked at. But we need to revisit that. And all of the Mass Association of Councils on Aging are really reminding us to remind you that it's really important for you to fill out that census form. So. All right. Is my guest on the phone yet, Pete?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Okay. I should probably call him and just
take the break.
Yep. We'll take a break, and we'll bring in Joe Rouse's song. Maybe his song will bring him in. Happiness is a thing called Joe.
Skies ain't gonna cloud no more. The crops ain't gonna fail. Caught a bluebird by the toe, a rainbow by the tail. A certain man with eyes that shine voodooed up this heart of mine. It seems like happiness is just a thing called Joe. He's got a smile that makes the lilacs want to grow. He's got a way that makes the angels heave a sigh. When they see little Joe passing by, sometimes the cabin's gloomy and the table's bare, but when he kisses me, it's Christmas everywhere. Troubles fly away and life is easy go. Does he love me good? That's all I need to know. Seems like happiness is just a thing called Joe. Little Joe, little Joe, little Joe.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardie siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for ArtsBeat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:19. You're listening to 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. Pete Coles is in the studio with us. That keeps alternating between quite steamy and then getting it. I feel like it's the air is back on now, Pete. Feels a little bit more
I don't think it's on. I
comfortable
think there's just a breeze coming in from my window.
Okay. Well, I don't know. In my neck of the woods, because you're in your secluded glass booth over there.
It's definitely not 74 like it was on Monday.
There you go. All right. So on the line, we have Joe Rouse, Director of Public Health for the City of Westfield. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
How are you doing these days?
Yeah, getting a little worn, but
yeah,
we're hanging in there.
Yeah. So we haven't been doing our weekly emergency management conference calls. Although do we have one this afternoon?
I don't believe so.
You don't think so? Okay.
No, it was
right.
we were kind of going to wait until
something
significant, but we'll
okay.
We'll talk about the phase 2, step 2, but
okay.
It's not a whole lot there.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about sort of why don't you just start wherever you would like to start on the COVID-19 piece on sort of how things are going at this point.
Okay, yeah, we're seeing, still low numbers, and a lot of days in the past we had 0, so we were just totally flat, which was great.
Yes.
And I think we went about 3 weeks in a row with no new deaths. So that was also a nice thing to have. And recently, within the past 4 or 5 days, we've started to see little bits of numbers come in, which was to be expected, after everybody started getting back together again. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing now, what we're seeing is the probably 4 or 5 cases that we've had in the last week have all been young adults. They've all been people in their 20s. And that's very interesting to see, not surprising, but interesting in the sense that the last time we saw kind of an uptick in the numbers, it was with, the seniors. It was with the 70s, 80s, 90-year-old people.
Yeah.
And now we're not seeing that at all, and we're just seeing it in strictly every single one of the cases so far has been, between 20 and 30.
Yeah, that's interesting, Joe, because I'm hearing that as a trend, nationally too. I don't know if it's specific to certain states, but why? Any theory on why that is?
Well, it's pretty obvious, and it's throughout the state, throughout the country, that it's the lack of social distancing at various different events, whether it's social, political, whatever it is. The demographic that is in abundance at those types of occasions. So it's obvious that that's the reason for why. It's not like all of a sudden, the virus have mutated and decided to go after younger people.
Yeah.
It's just that they're the ones who are being the most available hosts right now.
And Joe, what are you seeing in terms of the severity in it of the illness for those young folks? Or are they asymptomatic?
They are sometimes asymptomatic or very, very little symptom. So that turns into a problem because then, they just in essence become carriers and bring that around to the other people in their families or in their work or whatever. That may be people who aren't, don't have the fortitude to withstand contracting the virus. So it's a dangerous situation. And can be, can be spread real quick that way. We're really nervous about it. But the other thing is that, there is still more testing available. So maybe in the beginning there was some of that bit of demographics in those ages that were similar to now, except that they weren't the ones being tested. So it didn't show up. We were really focused on the pre-existing condition and elderly to do the tests for.
Yeah, and that made a lot of sense. And at the time when the tests were just not readily available, you kind of had to prioritize who was going to be tested at that time.
Correct. Yeah, definitely.
So Joe, where exactly are we in? It's starting to get a little confusing, to be really honest with you, when you're the guy out on the street as to exactly what phase, and because even phase 2, there are like different, there's like a part 1 and a part 2, and where are we on what phase I think at this point we're in phase 2. Is that correct? Phase 2, part 1. Is that what we're in?
We started phase 2. Step 2 on Monday.
Step 2. Okay. So what does that mean for the? For those what's that mean to the guy out on the street?
Are we to PI yet? 3.16175234.
Exactly. So what does that mean we're allowed to do?
So in phase 2, step 2, there wasn't a huge amount of things like in the.
Okay.
Phase 2 was a tremendous amount of new stuff that you don't have to be the guy on the street to get confused about it. Yeah. Everybody gets confused about it. So even we sit there for days just trying to digest all of the different requirements and guidelines, and some of them require clarification. We have to follow up and call the state and say, what does this mean? This one doesn't really make sense, or get the rationale for it so we can explain it to people when they think it's ridiculous, like one of the ones that I'm going to talk about. So in step 2, what you're allowed to do now is indoor table service for restaurants.
Okay.
So we don't have to be just strictly outside anymore, although I would recommend to people if they can bear it, then you should probably be better off outside. But that has some restrictions that we kind of saw coming, and it's similar to the outdoor dining where the tables have to be positioned 6 feet apart. There can't be any more than a party of 6 at each table. They have to really minimize their meandering around the customers in the facility. It's supposed to be meant to, you go in, you sit there, and you get your service. So there's also you're not allowed to go to the bar, so the bars aren't open.
Right.
Because that's still something to be determined at a later date. So I think bars are going to be phase 4.
Okay.
So we're way away from that. But they are allowed to utilize the bar area for table seating.
Oh,
they
okay,
can
right.
figure out
Okay, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then the other thing was if the tables can't be more than 6 feet apart, they have to have a like a plexiglass shield in
Yes.
between.
Yes.
But we really, we've been seeing some of the plans and going around and really trying to advocate to, some places they can certainly have their tables be 6 feet apart, but they're trying to optimize the number of tables so
Sure.
but the thing is that whatever that barrier is that they put up there, it can't be just like a curtain or something. It has to be, a impervious sort of. It would have to be the equivalent of a plexiglass up to a height of 6 feet. So,
but now
that's kind of expensive.
You know what I remember? Chief, can we bring the cone of silence down?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But Joe, so in between patrons going in though, does that plexiglass does that have to be cleaned and wiped down?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
because people are going to touch it, especially if you
Sure.
have kids in there. Or something.
Yeah. I mean, the
So,
whole idea,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, there's a huge protocol, regardless of what the setbacks are to keep the social distancing. The cleaning and the sanitization of all of those areas is extensive in all of these guidelines. So,
Yes.
it's so people are going to be spending an inordinate amount of time just over and over after every single party is done. Just every single thing that they're going to have to clean and disinfect. So.
Yep.
The other thing I had mentioned before too was the menus are no more reusable menus.
That's right.
They're going to have to be either disposable or electronic or written on a sign somewhere. But yeah, so it's
I think
interesting.
it sounds like I am not one who's going to be going out to a restaurant anytime soon, indoor or outdoor. I just I'm happy with curbside. Take it home, eat it in the shelter of my own home. But my daughter was at one of the Westfield restaurants, I guess a week or so ago, outdoor dining. And she said they really did a great job. I mean, she said they had, sort of minimal contact with the wait staff. They had a system where, you had like a red and a green symbol that if you needed, them to come over, that's, you switched it to whatever you needed. Everything was, she said everything was on disposable take home so that you got your meal, and then if you couldn't finish it, it was already in the take home container, and off you went with it. So she felt that they did a really good job of adhering to the rules and everybody wearing masks and so forth. So anyway, that was she said she felt safe.
Yeah,
So
and
that was a
the
good
good thing is that we know it went relatively well because we weren't getting a lot of complaints.
Right.
And most of the complaints, believe it or not, that we would get would be from employees and saying, I don't feel like my employer is doing this properly.
Okay.
And they're not, telling us the right way to do things as I read it. So then we would go over there and just do a little lesson. But we didn't get a lot of that. So yeah, everybody. They were so desperate at that point to just get back in business.
Yes.
They would do anything,
Right.
And they
Right.
really did. So
yeah, and I think a lot of I think a lot of the hair salons were the same way. I mean, they were so they desperately wanted to open, and of course we desperately wanted them to open. But everybody that I've talked to, every female that I've talked to said just a major protocol and everything being sanitized and disinfected and wait in your car until they call you in one at a time. And my perception was that they were really doing a great job of trying to follow all the guidelines. And I have to tell you, Joe, as you've pointed out, it's not as easy as it sounds to follow the guidelines because there is some they're a little subject to interpretation. And you do need to get some clarification. I've been working with the Mass Association of Councils on Aging since this thing started. And we are, starting to get our guidelines and protocols for scaling up operations is what we're calling it. Because we really don't want to call it reopening the centers because the Councils on Aging we've continued to provide services throughout this whole pandemic. So it's not a matter of we were closed and we weren't doing anything and now we're going to reopen. It's really more a matter of, letting the public into the building in some way, shape, or form. But I have to tell you, it like is a ream of paper just to print out the guidelines. It is mind-boggling. And one of the things that they suggest is, kind of walking through your building with your, director of health, public health, to kind of talk about, well, this is the way we, typically would utilize this room, but, we can't do that now. So, this is what our plan is. And, Mary Lou and I have done that together. We've just kind of walked through to see, okay, well, if we're not going to use the great room for meals, because we can't use the same standards as a restaurant for opening up the congregate meal sites because of the population that we serve. And because, think about it, when you go to a restaurant, you typically go with your family. So you can all sit at the same table because you're all part of the same family. When my people come in to have meals, they're generally either by themselves or, we do have some couples. But I could have 6 people from 6 different homes and housing, senior housing complexes at the same table. And the only way to put them there without making them, 6 feet apart is with plexiglass. And, that's really expensive and not anything that we're going to be doing. So, there is so much to it. I mean, people keep asking me like, when can we come? When can we come? And, not for a long time. I'm just trying to be really honest, and say we're going to open like one program at a time. We'll start with something small, and then we got to figure out how well we do it and what are the bugs before we go on to maybe another program. So it's a process. I can't even imagine what you and Deb and the other, members of the health department are going through with looking at all these regs for all of these different, businesses. I've just got one that I've got to deal with, and it's just pages and pages and pages for us to figure out. I can't even imagine. I really can't.
Well, one thing that is nice is that now we've gotten past that initial really scary point where we were getting inundated with cases and people were unsure of what they were doing.
Yeah.
We've gotten into a nice little sort of comfortable zone now where we have more time to try and digest all of these guidelines and the regulations and the orders.
Yes.
Because before we had no time. We were just being so reactionary to everything.
Yeah.
And there was constantly phone call after phone call after phone call
to
keep everybody updated and on the same page. And so, yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's all over the place. And I have never seen in my whole 22 years. So it really is an unfunded mandate. And the state is they have no other choice but to rely on the local boards of health to deal with this because they themselves don't have the staffing to deal with it in 351 different cities and towns.
That's it.
But they just kind of, they put it on paper and they send it out and they go, here you go, let's do that. So,
and Joe, do the boards of, do the health directors, do you sort of have your own, meetings or conference calls among yourselves with different cities and towns to kind of review any of this as well?
Yeah, so that's, definitely much needed too and very well received. So it's every Tuesday at 3:00.
Yep.
And it's the entire Board of Health, any Board of Health or health department that wants to call in from throughout the state with a conversation with the state health department so that they can either clarify the regulations and guidelines. We can ask questions, and of course, sometimes that gets very heated because people are mad because they're, handing us volumes of information to interpret. And so, we do have that, and it is helpful. Thankfully, it's not more than once a week because, like I said, we were getting so bogged down before. Well, you remember, Tina, we had probably 4 different phone calls, and I said, I've never been to so many meetings in my life, even though it was over the phone. It's like, can you imagine a week where we were going to have 4 or 5 meetings, like one every day? I didn't have that.
And each meeting going, an hour to an hour and a half. It was a huge chunk of our day. I think, Joe, the way we've done the same thing, the councils on aging, the directors of the councils on aging also have those weeklies, but I kind of like the way we do it. And they started this right out of the gate. So we also have representation from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. But what we have to do is you have to submit it's not a dialogue. you have to submit your questions by 5 o'clock the day before. So we meet Thursday afternoons at 2. So any questions that you have, you email them the night before by 5 o'clock, and they will answer all of the questions. But it eliminates that back and forth stuff because, as you said, I mean, there are 350 towns and cities in the Commonwealth that have departments of public health and councils on aging. So that's worked really well for us. And then regionally, we also have the Western Mass directors. We do ours every 2 weeks. That is a dialogue. But that's also, not every director can do it every time. There's no expectation there. I find that one really helpful too, though, because then we can kind of brainstorm a little bit and also be able to, it sets us up a little bit more regionally so that, one COA isn't saying, well, I'm going to open up my doors next Tuesday and then because then all the seniors will be like, well, why can't we open? West Springfield opened or whatever. So we're all kind of staying on the same page with how we're doing things, how we're interpreting the guidelines. So I found that to be really helpful as well. But as you said, all of that is time consuming. It just...
Yeah. It is, but it's also nice to know that you're allied with. You're not on your own on this. Everybody's kind of in the same boat, and it's nice to hear the same stories and concerns and troubles. So
and I think a lot of people, and a lot of people have the same questions that you do, maybe about the interpretation of a guideline or how do I read this, or because some of them are. They are confusing. 50% capacity, or what exactly does that mean? So. All right. Well, yeah, right. Exactly. Right. All right. Let's take a little break. It is 7:38. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. Pete, which one do you want to play? You want to do the afternoon tea? Okay. So this is the afternoon tea by the Kinks, and this is because June is National Iced Tea Month.
Tea time won't be the same without Madonna. At night, I lie awake and dream with Donna. I think about that small cafe. That's where we used to meet each day. And then we used to sit a while, drink our afternoon tea. I'll take afternoon tea. Afternoon tea. If you take it with me. Afternoon tea. You take as long as you like. 'Cause I like you good. I take sugar with tea. Afternoon tea. You take milk if you please. Afternoon tea.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:43. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. I'm in the studio with Pete Coles. He's in his glass secluded booth over there. Lest you think we're not doing our distancing, we are.
Yep.
And on the phone, we have Joe Rouse, Director of Public Health for the City of Westfield. Good morning again, Joe.
Good morning.
Okay, so we know there's all kinds of stuff COVID-related going on there. However, we have other things going on in the city as well, and you are responsible for other public health issues as well. And I want to switch topics to talk a little bit about ticks because they're on the rise, and I'm hearing stories of Lyme disease kind of being on the rise as well, which probably is complicating this whole COVID thing because some of those symptoms of Lyme disease, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but don't they sort of overlap? I mean, it's a lot of the same kinds of symptoms. Could be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a good time to talk about this too. Now that we're in the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The symptoms can mirror a little bit. I mean, the severity is different.
Yep.
But yeah, it is kind of the same thing. So you could wind up in the doctor's or hospital and be presenting with symptoms that they might think is something where, you should get a COVID test and then turn out to be a myriad of other things, one including Lyme disease. So
yeah,
it's crazy that in the last few years we've seen such an uptick in
an uptick in ticks,
in Lyme disease.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's it. All right,
So-
I'll be here all week, folks. All right. But we have to talk about it because it's big. This is a serious disease, and it's something everybody has to worry about. So this is a non-specific demographic sort of condition, and people are forgetting about the precautions they need to take with this now because we're so worried about wearing masks and staying away from people.
Yep.
So it's a good topic to talk about now.
Well, the other reason that I want to talk about this topic, Joe, is because more and more, with people doing staycations and things like that, they're doing things like taking walks and going hiking and getting their bicycle out that, maybe they haven't ridden in the last 15 years. So they're doing more outdoors types of activities. And for some people, they haven't done a lot of this over the last several years. And so I think we need to talk a little bit about, kind of appropriate tick prevention behavior. So maybe you could kind of address that issue.
Yeah. So it's all about protecting yourself, covering yourself, making sure that, I know it's hot out and everything, but practically speaking, when you're going to be out in, whether it's just your regular lawn or tall grass areas, that you have at least something on to protect your legs, your ankles. Of course, that's the most likely place you're gonna get it, unless you brush up against things like vegetation out in the yard around the fence area or something, and the ticks don't jump on you; they just kind of fall off on you when you brush by. So, so those are the kinds of things that and also the insect repellent. I know people hate having to use it, but in this case, to prevent the ticks that carry Lyme disease, you want to use an insect repellent that has a DEET component, a DEET.
Okay.
It used to be a thing that people would say, "Oh my God, don't use that; it's too strong," or
right.
It's gonna have bad effects for you, especially children. But now, given the alternative where you could potentially get Lyme disease, the effects of the DEET insect repellent is the least of the concerns. So, so definitely do that. And the two other big things that you have to do now is, regardless of how well you think you're protected and and all of that. You need to definitely check yourself when you come back inside.
And when you say check yourself, like what? Be specific, Joe. What are people looking for, and then what should they do if they find something? So, what? How do they know they would have a tick? Because I know they're tiny, right? I mean, they're pretty small.
Yeah, I mean, there are some that the ones you're going to be most concerned about as far as the carriers of Lyme disease are the ones that you're going to be able to see or feel very easily. So it's a matter of, start right from, this is what I do every time, right from the bottom. You go down to where, like the top of your shoes, and you just kind of check around your legs all the way around, up. And, if you're not going to be taking a shower, which is advisable, especially if after you've been outside and you have insect repellent on, maybe it's been hot out there, you need to shower. It's the best way to do the whole entire thing. And it's a visual, and also just you need to make sure that you're feeling all those places that it would be logical. Think about what you did, what your activities were when you were out there.
Okay.
And this is why it's important to know that you're just because you're within 3 feet of some sort of vegetation that's 3 feet high, doesn't mean that the tick's gonna. So you have to think about: did I rub up against anything? And if so, was my neck? Did it hit my neck? And all that. Check your head and everything. So that's a real big deal, and people don't think to do it. I guess they feel like if they don't feel it, and you're not going to feel it. I mean, physically on you. They think then they're okay, but you just, at the very least, I mean, do your lower extremities, which is where the areas are most likely, unless you're in a big area of overgrowth, and then you got to just do everything. So, and the other thing is too, you definitely, regardless of your activity outside, if you have animals that are out there, you have to check them, because they're going to spread that. They're going to, especially people who have dogs who let them up on their beds or their couches or furniture or anything, or even just from being on the floor. That's an area where people don't think of a lot too. It's just as important to check your pets.
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, a tick does. It's not like a mosquito bite where it itches or anything, is it, or is it? I mean, I don't know. I've not had one, thankfully.
No, I don't believe there's any sort of a sensation of a bite.
Yeah.
I guess in certain cases, after they have planted themselves on you, you might feel a sensation because you start to develop a rash.
Okay.
But initially you won't know based on a sensation that you have a tick on you.
Okay. And are there certain ticks that carry, what's the Lyme disease connection? So are there certain ticks that carry Lyme and not others, or how does that work? I mean, just because if you find a tick, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get Lyme disease.
Correct. And it used to be the case that there were certain ticks. There's the dog ticks and the deer ticks, and those are the ones that we see around here the most. And it used to be the case that one of them was more likely to transmit Lyme disease, and now it's kind of a more gray area. So you don't really. We actually used to give out tick identification cards.
Oh, wow.
So that people could see the difference. But the fact is that now it's so hard to identify for the normal resident to be able to say, oh, I know 100% I'm not going to get Lyme disease because this was a dog tick, not a deer tick.
Right.
And it's just, you don't want to get into that. You just have to really make sure that, and if you have one on you, I would advocate for people preventatively to go online and look at the proper tick removal method. You don't have to run out to the doctor to have a tick removed. There's ways to do it, and it's very easy. It really just involves, grabbing like with a tweezer and pulling it out at a straight angle, instead of, you don't want to leave part of the tick like embedded in you.
Right, so you don't want to twist. My understanding is you take the tweezers and you want to pull straight up and just pull the whole thing off.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Do I have that right?
And it sounds simple, but it's something
Yeah, I know. It sounds like it's easy. Probably not so much.
Yeah, you just want to make sure, like, there's so many videos out there about it. It's just, it takes a minute, you just go and you see, even if you have one on you, before you remove it, if you want to make sure you're not going to leave part of it behind, just check it out and say, okay, they'll show you exactly how, and then you're good to go. But it is really just, you grab it, pull it straight out. Don't twist it. Don't try and pull it at side angle or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so Joe, what else should we be aware of? I mean, we're into the summer now. You know what? Give us a few updates, like what's going on recycling wise, and the dump is still closed, or whatever. What do we call it? The transfer station that's still closed for now, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to reopen on July 1st, so
okay.
It's a good topic real quick because it's confusing, and I know people are anxious to get back in there. We have been closed, and a lot of people think it's been because of the COVID issue at the transfer station. It's not because of that. People can easily social distance up there. It's a component of two things. One, we started a construction project that has been overdue for like 7 years. And so it was kind of in an area where there was a lot of traffic and it was going to be a problem. So closed for construction. There'll be a little construction going on when we reopen, but not anything that should get in anybody's way. And the other thing was when we started looking at the money, the financial part of it, after we had already been closed for probably a month and a half, we started to look at how much it costs us to operate that on a monthly basis. I mean, we do that all the time anyway. But when the city is in dire straits for money, it made sense to say to the mayor, I said, if we stay closed another 6 weeks, we can probably give you back about $200,000, which is sorely needed right now.
That's a lot of money, Joe.
Should say. That's a small sacrifice for people to make to, So it was a cost avoidance thing, and if there was any way that we could save money by cutting services, that's the number one service that you want to cut. It's a drop-off facility. Everybody still has curbside collection.
Yep.
You're not cutting the services of police or fire, which nobody wants to do.
Yep.
So it was a no-brainer to do that, to be able to give that money back to the city, and hopefully residents won't have to worry about any other increases in other areas.
Now, Joe, let me ask you something as I'm thinking this through. So it will reopen in July, but in the past, if you've had like large objects or items or something like that, you had to pay a certain amount, and then you got a sticker, but you would have to go to City Hall. Now, City Hall is closed, so do you know how that will work if people have items that need to be picked up or whatever?
Yeah, so since we've been closed up there for about 3 months after July 1st comes around, the current entrance permit stickers that people have on their vehicles are going to be good until the end of September.
Okay.
So even though on it says expires June 30th, we've been closed. People want to get, they want to get their full money's worth out of it. So we're extending the expiration on those until the end of September.
Okay.
New stickers need to be purchased in October, and those will be at a reduced rate of $20 instead of $25 because you're going to lose a few months on that.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And there's going to also be a new policy where we have to have proof of residency at the gate, because what we're going to do with selling the stickers, there's going to be two things. One, we're going to try to see if Big Y will be willing to sell those for us. In the past, they've been resistant because they didn't want to get into the whole proof of residency transaction with people.
Okay.
So if we just have them sell the sticker like they do all of the other individual item stickers, and we check identification at the gate, then we're good.
Okay.
And the other thing is they're also going to be available online. So it's not quite set up yet, but within the next few weeks, it should be, you can go online and buy a transfer station sticker that way.
Perfect. So you guys you've been working hard at all of this.
Yeah, I don't know how that comes into the mix, but it's crazy. We're dealing with a pandemic, and the next thing you know, you're talking about trash. So
I know.
But somebody's got to do it.
Joe,
right?
It's always all about the trash.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of trash talk in there. All right. So and now anything else? So in terms of like restaurant inspections and things like that, are you finding that you're just doing a lot of educating at this point?
Yeah, so the protocol that we use is, I've been a big advocate for voluntary compliance, and we don't want to have to, I don't want to go and be shutting people down. This is their business and livelihood.
Right.
And unless they're being very egregious and intentional and thumbing their nose at the regulations, then, you try and work with them and say, First of all of our investigations that we do for any of the COVID-related guidelines are complaint-based. So, we're not going to be out surveilling somebody in a parking lot, seeing if they're doing the right thing. Right. We have too many places and too many different types of businesses to be running around checking on people. So if we get a complaint, we'll investigate it, and at that time we kind of just educate people and, redirect everything, and there's no fines issued until, you get to maybe like the third complaint on a place, and you might start to issue fines. But other than that, it's just a lot of educating. It's a lot of phone calls every day, people calling with questions about, just the specific to their
right. Whatever their business is, and that's not just the restaurants. It might be hairdressers, or it might be, it could be anything. I mean, any small business. Just questions in terms of, what do I need to do? As I said, I know because I'm going through the regulations for us, or not the guidelines. And a lot of the, the conference calling that I'm doing with other directors, where we're sort of bantering things around, saying, well, what's your interpretation of that? Well, I called the state and they said this. Okay, great. Now I don't have to worry about that because now I have some clarification. So, Joe Rouse, it has been a pleasure having you on. I appreciate your updates, and certainly we appreciate everything that you and your staff have been doing during this pandemic. I know it's been a wild ride for you. I think this is one where you're going to look back in your career. You're never going to forget this experience. I can promise you that.
That's for sure.
Yeah, so it's great. So, so thank you. Keep up the great work. We will talk to you again next month on air. And hopefully we'll just, we'll continue to see the numbers, stay stable, go down. That would be wonderful. So, keep wearing those masks, keep doing your physical distancing, 6 feet, and just being safe, just for yourself and for others. And I think the message that I want to remind people as I'm signing off today is remember that you're wearing the mask for those around you. Because, I keep hearing people saying, well, I'm fine and I don't need the mask. The mask is for everyone around. It's protecting the people, your loved ones, your acquaintances, your coworkers. That's why we're wearing masks. So if we all do it, we're all protecting each other. Right?
Well said.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
All right. Thank you.
And what's the
Stay
final?
healthy, my friend.
There you go. Now we're done. All righty.
Now we're done.
All right. Next up,
Bye-bye.
Harry Rock.